Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first Velero community meeting of the second half of 2019. Super excited to have you all here. We got the entire team. We're going to give you a good update, and we invite you all to ask questions, of course, throughout the meeting. So if you have any questions regarding the updates or the demos that we're going to be showing today, please just raise your voice or send us a message in the chat. So this is being recorded. We'll upload it up on YouTube later on. So let's get things started. And I'll share my screen so you can see the agenda as well. So first off, when we look at things that we've been working on, we got Nolan, who's going to give us a little update on the CSI Snapshot prototype plugins.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot more to elaborate on with the prototype plugin. I think the approach is mostly sound. Mostly we're looking for people to give it a test against CSI implementations that have snapshot support or are trying to add snapshot support. Also, in the meantime, I'm working on a PR for getting rustic support for CSI volumes because that was a missing feature in rustic support. So really just looking for more people, looking to get a broader test base on the plugins and see if we can suss out any more issues.
Cool. Any questions on the CSI plugin work that Nolan's been doing? If you missed the demo that Nolan did, what was that, 2 weeks ago? It's up on YouTube as well. Yep. So that's in the previous community meeting. So if you want to see that, head on over to YouTube and you can see it there. All right, next up, we got Carlisia back from KubeCon Shanghai.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, so KubeCon Shanghai was great. The city is amazing. There were 3,000 attendees there, and it was really good. Anyway, I came back, picking back up the Rustic GA issues. So in other words, the issues that we are going to get done to consider Rustic general availability. If you want to see what they are, it's on that link that Jonas is showing on the video right now. And if you have questions, if you want to pick up any of the tickets, let me know. If you want to test anything, let me know. It's mostly performance improvement and usability improvements. Questions? All right, let's move on. I have a demo. I'm going to do this demo because why not? I did this demo for my presentation in Shanghai, and it is to show how to migrate from one cluster to another cluster. So as most of you know, but for people watching this video, you might or might not know that Velero stores the backups in an S3 bucket. And usually that bucket is in the same provider as the cluster you're backing up from, but it doesn't have to be. It can be anywhere where you can set up an S3 bucket. And I'm going to show you a setup where the bucket's not in a cluster. So let me share my screen. How's the size fonts?
I think you can make it a little bigger.
How about this?
That's better.
Is it good enough?
Well, it could be a little bigger for me.
Okay.
Not much better.
Is it good enough?
Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right, so before I show you the actual demo, let me walk you through the setup that I have here so you can understand what's going on as I do things. I have, gosh, let me move this thing here. So I have 2 clusters up and running, and I'm using kinds. So I'm going to show you my Docker, what I have running here with my Docker containers. So I have 1 cluster. So the top 2 containers are kind containers running a Kubernetes cluster. So one I named development control, so development cluster, and the other one I named staging cluster. And this is so you can imagine a scenario where you have a development team, or you are a developer, you're developing an app, and you have to ship that to maybe a staging environment where people will test, and you can be doing that multiple times a day, once a day or once a week. And so the people who need access to that staging environment will have an exact version of your application if you just use Velero to restore to that other cluster. So here I have, so like I said, two containers, one for each of my clusters, and I have a separate container running Minio. And I'm going to have both clusters pointing to that Minio setup. So one is going to push backups to that Minio S3 buckets, and the other one is going to pull from there. And I also have here, this window is, if you see the bottom of my screen or on the top right, it will indicate both the namespace where I'm in and the cluster that I'm in. And on this particular window, I'm dedicating this window for the development cluster and this window for my staging cluster. And I'm going to go back and forth between them, but I'm going to start here with my development cluster. So the first thing I want to show you is, so I'm using K for a shortcut for kube control, so you know. And I'm in the Velero namespace. What I wanted to show you actually was get namespace, but spoiler, I'm already in the Velero namespace. What I want to show you is that Velero is the very last namespace there. Oh, hold on, let me delete something. Okay. I'm deleting the app that I am going to install to show you it as part of my demo. So the very last namespace there is the Velero namespace. That means Velero is installed. For example, if I go on my staging cluster and I say get namespaces, you see Velero is not there. I'm going to install it later, and I will just to demonstrate how easy it is to install Velero. So going back to my development cluster, so that nginx namespace is not there anymore. Great. And another thing I want to show you is that I have a bunch of scripts, and they are just so I don't sit here mistyping things and make you wait while I mistype things, but they are live. They're going to be running live against the clusters that I have. So the first thing that I want to do is not back up, because mainly I don't have anything of interest in this cluster. So I'm going to add something of interest. I'm going to add an app. And that app is, yeah, okay. So that app is just a nginx server. So basically I have a manifest there in that directory. Is called base.yaml. And so I created that. And that gave me a namespace called nginx example. That's the namespace where I put that, that container. So you can see it there is the second one from the bottom. And if I do get, I'm going to switch to my nginx example. If I say get pods on this namespace, you're going to see here the pods has been created and it's running and it's ready. Great. So now what I want to do is just to demonstrate that that is really running and live. And to do that, I'm going to do, I have to add, let me see. I have to do a port forward on that server. And yeah, okay, so I'm going to add port 8000 to that server so we can access it. I don't think that was the script I wanted. No. Sorry, this is the script I wanted. Here we go. Great. So I'm going to pop up back up here on this pane. I'm going to clear, and I'm going to curl. Can you see that? Okay. So I'm going to curl that port that I just opened. And you can see here, welcome to nginx. You can see down here that it's handling connection. So each time I ping, I get one entry for that. It's great, it's working, it's live. All right, so now I have something of interest too that I wanna make sure I back up. So I'm going to do Velero, create, backup, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say acme-dev. Acme could be my company name, could be my product name, my app name. And as you can see up here, we are getting two messages here. One is saying the backup request was sent successfully. So this is just the request to create the backup. It's not really saying the backup was successful. So for us to check if the backup was created successfully, Velero gives you these two instructions here. And I'm going to first run the describe. This is what I usually start with because it's short. And so it's going to tell us if the backup was really created, because it could fail validation. It could fail to upload to the S3 buckets. And in those cases, it could give you a failed phase, or it could give you a, I think it's partial failed, something that would translate to partially failed. And it will give you the error messages on the bottom, but we didn't get any error, so that's great. And so phase completed, that's how I know it says phase completed here. And I'm going to run the logs. I know there are not going to be errors in the log, but I just want to show you what it will look like. So this is a log just for that backup. So we can look at the log for the Velero deployments, which will combine all of the transactions. But you can also just look at like each individual backup log, which I think is really neat. All right, so now I have an app running on the development cluster. I have a backup for it, and I can do Velero get backups and see all the backups that I have. And you can see here the name, the status is completed, and the expiration timeline, and the storage location. You can configure different storage locations. I'm not going to go into that. Of course, if you have questions about how to do that, you can have multiple locations if you need to set up your workflow like that. So you can ask us questions if you want to learn more. And so I'm going to go to my staging cluster. And remember, I don't even have Velero installed here. So the first thing I'm going to do is install Velero. All right, so let me go over what just happened here. So Velero has this very neat install command where you pass these flags to set up everything that you need to set up Velero on the cluster. So this is going to be the Velero server running on a cluster. The secret file is where you will put the credentials for your service provider. And so here's the credentials for my Minio S3 buckets. And the backup location is going to be the default that gets created, but I'm specifying the region is Minio just to give an indication that this is a Minio setup. We have all of this information on our docs. And here, something of interest is that the URL for the Minio buckets, I'm using my computer's IP address. If I use localhost, you won't be able to find it because this is running Minio in the container, and I'm trying to access Minio from my cluster that's in another container. And I'm telling Velero the port it's running on because that's the port the container is running on. And this is also really neat. I'm passing a local image that I have here on my computer. And, excuse me. Neat. If you're just trying to add Velero with an image that, let's say you're in a network that doesn't have access to the outside world, you can just pull it from your local image. And everything that gets set up is based on CRDs. So we create a CRD for each resource that we need. And it says here, and it's installed, hooray. And we can run this command to make sure that, okay. Let me just clean this up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's misspelled. All right. So right away, the install command gives you the log that you should be checking. If any problem happens with the installation, you would see it here. Great. Now, I have the namespace Velero, and I don't have the nginx namespace because I have installed that app on this cluster. And I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is migrate that workload, the workload from my first cluster into this cluster, and this is how I'm going to get access to that. I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to prove to you that it worked. So hang on to your seats. Let me see what I want to do. I want to run a restore, my restore script. So here you're going to see how you create a restore, and basically, very simple. Velero restore creates. That's a name that I gave to it. Is actually I'm just generating random names on with my scripts. But you can either pass, so you can pass whatever name, or you can pass no name, and Velero will create a name for the restore. And the relevant thing here is the -- from backup. And I'm passing the name of the backup I want to restore from. And because I have set up the backup store location to point to the S3 bucket that I have running that was connected with my first cluster. So when I pass this name, Velero knows, okay, that's the backup that I need to restore from. And so it's, again, it says the request was submitted successfully. That was the request that was sent successfully. We don't know if the request worked. So I'm going to run here the describe is my favorite first thing to check. And if I scroll up, it says phase completed. Perfect. I'm not even going to run the log because we know it worked. And now if I say get namespace, as I expected, my nginx example namespace there, that's a great sign. So I am going to switch to that namespace so I don't have to type so much. Okay, so that, and now I'm going to do get pods. And see that my nginx pod is running and it's ready. Fantastic. Now, the restore seems to have worked, but did it really? So I'm going to do let me do this. I'm going to do a port forward on that server. And I have even a different scripts because I didn't close the port on that first server. And so that port is 8000 is being used. So I created a port forward here with the port 8100 anyway. So I'm going to pop up here and do a curl on that port and check that out. It worked. I just did a restore. It's like magic. I know. And one more thing that I want to show. I'm going to exit out of this pane to make more room. Let me clear this. So now Velero, get backups. So as we expected, even though I'm on the staging cluster, because my bucket is pointing to the same S3 buckets that my first the development buckets was pointing to, I can see the best. So the right way, one thing that I'm not showing is that with the with Velero 1.0, when we would create this second cluster that we mainly wanted to restore from a different cluster, we would create it as read-only. So we would prevent people from accidentally doing a backup of that cluster into the S3 bucket because it would be a mess. That's not how things should work. So you would purposefully create it with a read-only flag. But so after 1.0, so our next release is going to have a very neat feature that you don't have to set the whole bucket as read-only, only the store location. So if you have a bucket, if you have a cluster here, like in my case, the development cluster, and I'm backing up that cluster. So I can have multiple storage locations, which I didn't demonstrate, but we can. And again, you can ask us questions or read out docs. So I set a backup to go to a specific store location. So that's going to be read and write. So when I set up this cluster over here to restore from that backup location, I can, instead of specifying the whole cluster to be read-only, I can specify only that backup storage location. That way, I can create another storage location and back up that second cluster. Because now it's not the cluster that's read-only, it's just specific backup locations. I don't know if there is a question. I see a chat. Okay, awesome demo. Oh, yay, great. All right, Jonas, this is very distracting. Tell me if there is any question, please. Feel free to interrupt me. I'll be glad. Okay, yes.
Yeah, no questions for you. We do have a question for around CSI, but yeah, no questions around the demo except for awesome demos comments.
Great, thank you. So there is one last thing I want to show. And that is, so let me backtrack a little bit. So we have that backup. I did not set either this cluster or the backup location as the read-only, because I am on going against master. I could have done just the backup location as the read-only. So I could technically delete. I can't delete this backup from here because I didn't do that. It's really bad practice. We have to make sure we don't do that. And so just not to encourage bad practice, I'm going to go back to the cluster that I should have read and write permissions, which is my development cluster. And I'm going to, oh, so two more things. I'm sorry. I lost a little bit of track. I'm going to show you two more things. One is how to download your backup. And then I'm going to show you how to delete the backup. So Velero has a very neat feature that if you have a backup on a cluster, you can do a download. So you do Velero download. If you say what it is that you want to download as a backup, and you say, you pass the name of the backup, and am I doing this wrong? Oh my gosh, okay. I'm blanking, somebody help me.
Yeah, I think you may have to do Velero backup download. We may not have this one configured to work in either order.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Great. Now, I am going to go all right, sorry, I'm going to do it again because I wanted to do it inside this directory because I want to expand the file and I didn't want to have all the scripts showing so you can see. So in this download directory where I am now, you see that I have the first file and the second file is the tarball with all the backup contents. So I'm going to, actually, let me run the script because it has a command to untar that I don't remember by memory. Okay, great. So that was just showing the files, and now I ran the commands to untar. And here you can see all of the resources that we had in that cluster. And if I expand this, you see inside each folder, you have all of these items and just a bunch of stuff. So here is our nginx example resource. And it's, it's on your local, now it's on my local computer. Okay, so now, again, that's my backup's still there. And the last thing I want to show is that I can delete that backup very conveniently. Thank goodness there is a prompt asking me if I am sure. So again, the request was sent. So one thing that I can do to make sure that that backup was deleted is just, get backups and voila, it's not there anymore. Usually if you have persistent volumes and a lot of things, this will take a little bit of time. But since I didn't have any persistent volume and everything is running locally, it was super quick. And that's it. That's the end of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carlisia. Yeah, great demo. We do have one question here regarding the demo from Taher. Do these downloaded backups contain persistent volume metadata?
Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but yes.
So yeah, so if you had persistent volumes that were backed up, like the YAML backed up as part of your backup, they would certainly be in there. If you had persistent volume snapshots, we actually store the metadata about those snapshots in a different file, which isn't downloaded as part of this command. But I'm thinking we may want to actually modify this command to download the additional files that have those other metadata so that you get all of the information about the backup when you run this command.
Cool. Very cool. Thanks, Steve. The use case I was thinking about is if you've lost your storage and your cluster, but you have these snapshots somewhere. Can we bring the config brings back the applications, and somehow if I have the data somewhere, can I restore?
Yep, yeah, that's a great point, and I think that's, you could certainly kind of reconstruct these by hand, but I think we should look at modifying that command so that it does download all those metadata files, so that you could go ahead and upload them all and be able to restore.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Sure, thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know, Taher, you had another question that you wanted answered as well. Do you want to speak up?
Yeah, this is Taher Vora. I work for a storage company, Pure Storage. I've been looking at Velero for the past 3 to 6 months. We support a CSI plugin and data protection for storage from Pure Storage, my company, is a feature set we would like to add. And so we've just started looking at Velero integration. It seems to be the de facto tool in the Kubernetes world today to do backup and migration and things like that. We just started considering writing the block store plugin and the object store plugin, and I'm very happy to see that we are looking at using the CSI industry standard snapshot support through Velero. The question I had earlier was, so that takes the CSI plugin integration into Velero would take care of the block store plugin. As per my naive knowledge about Velero goes, you would still need to write an object store plugin separately if needed.
Yeah, I can take this one since Nolan had to drop for another call. So that's basically right. So the way we're thinking about it is that in the short to medium term, we want to add support for integrating with CSI snapshots, but we're not immediately going to be dropping our own block store plugins. We actually renamed them the volume snapshotter plugins, but we're not going to be dropping support for those anytime soon. Down the road in the longer term, as the community and the user base moves over to using CSI, we may look at dropping support for our volume snapshotter plugins eventually and just using CSI. But in the medium term, we'll support both CSI integration as well as the Velero volume snapshotter plugins. And then, yeah, the object store plugins aren't really affected by this, so we'll continue to support that as the interface for integrating with any additional object storage systems.
Okay, thank you. I have lots of other questions. I'll reach out to the Velero community team on Slack.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you.
We got a comment here from Jesse, and then we got one more question for Carlisia as well. So Jesse says, that's good to hear. The OCI plugins are nearly ready for release.
Yeah, I was just going to drop it there. I was very relieved to hear that. I was like, yeah, we are dropping them, but not quite yet. It was like bringing me back to flashbacks of chasing Docker with Solaris, and just every release, the API is changing. So yeah, this will get done and I'll release it, and then we can deprecate. Thanks.
Yeah. No, we will absolutely,
cool.
Absolutely be giving folks heads up.
We also have an object store plugin, which I think will be the first. Or at least, beyond the entry one. So that's been interesting because you have to do this little juggle because you deploy with that type and then it falls over until you can install the plugin. So there's a PR around possibly adding plugins to the install command, which I am happy to help with as soon as the dust clears on this first round of work on the plugins themselves.
Okay,
Cool.
awesome. Yeah, and I definitely think, updating the install command to be able to just install a plugin during the install will make that user experience a lot better. So look forward to working on that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Alex, you had a question. Do you want to speak up, or do you want me to read your question? All right, I'll read it then. So Alex had a question for Carlisia here. He caught the end of the Velero download. So he's wondering if you can do an inverse. So you have the file downloaded, the tarball downloaded. Can you use that to kind of upload it back to Velero as a backup?
No, we cannot. That sounds pretty neat though. But so Tom is our product manager, and I want to ask him if he thinks we should encourage opening an issue for that.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take a note on that. That's good.
You can certainly do it manually, but there is no CLI command to do it at the moment.
Cool, thank you. Thank you for the question, Alex. All right, let's look at the agenda here. I'm gonna show the agenda so people know what I'm talking about as well. So share desktop. All right. So we do have a few things coming up as well. Let's have a look at the board here. Was this something you wanted to talk about, Steve?
Yeah, I can just cover it quickly. This is, just a quick reminder that the best way to kind of see the team's current status is to look at the XenHub board. We're currently working on the 1.1 release, and so you can see the scope for that in the release backlog pipeline, which is, I think, just off to the right of your screen here, Jonas. And so, yeah, didn't really need to cover anything in particular. Just wanted to remind folks that this is kind of the best way to see where things are.
Cool. And the XenHub is linked from velero.io as well, so you can always check it out there. Another thing that's coming up on July 18th, Velero will be hosted or presented rather during the CNCF webinar series. So Tom and Steve will present Velero, talk about the project, and talk about what's coming up in the next release, what's been going on in the CNCF webinar. So we'll link to that as well. We'll share that in Slack and on Twitter and pretty much everywhere. So you can all join in. That's going to be on Thursday, July 18th at 9 a.m. Pacific. So that's noon Eastern, 6 p.m. Central European time. So yeah, please join if you can. That would be amazing. Next up, we got Tom. You want to talk a little about the Velero user survey?
Yeah, so we are putting together a user survey. As you guys know, we have an issue we've been running for a while, which is the next bullet down, issue 1327. Tell us about how you use Velero. We love to hear how people are using it. But we're going to expand on that to do a user survey. The user survey we're hoping to announce at the CNCF webinar in a couple of weeks. We'll have it open for a while, and then we'll compile all the responses and get those back to the community. It's somewhat on Velero, but it's also on just the importance of backup and restore for cloud native applications as well. So we'd love to have everyone look for that link, and when it gets announced here in a couple of weeks, and fill it out. We'd love to hear your kind of detailed responses to those questions, so that we can better gauge the interest in certain features in the community, and also kind of gauge where people's minds are at in terms of data protection as it relates to cloud native. So please join us in participating in that, and we will, like I said, push all the responses back out to the community for you guys to take a look as well. So I also mentioned the issue 1327. Please fill that out. If I'd love to hear how you're using Velero. And otherwise, join us on Slack at the hashtag Velero and on the Kubernetes Slack. Ask us questions, and we will respond and get you the answers you need. Or if you see something you would like in Velero or would like improved in Velero, just drop us a note there to let us know how we can make things better. But we'd love to continue getting feedback from the community. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, the feedback here from all of you who are using Velero or working on Velero, it's super important for us to know what you're thinking as well. So please help us with that, and we'll, as Tom said, we'll share all the responses and everything anonymized afterwards. So we'll make sure that you have all the data as well. Do we have any other questions from the community before we wrap up? All right. I want to thank you all for joining today. It's been a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for the demo, Carlisia. Thank you for the updates, Velero team. And yeah, as I said, this will be posted up on YouTube. So if you missed anything, we'll post it up on YouTube later today. So you should have it in the Velero Slack channel later today as well, so you can see it. And with that, thank you all, and hope to see you in 2 weeks. Have a good one.